Latino Talk TV right here in the East End with the Houston Media Source. And I have three very special guests today. We're going to talk about some issues, current events, and then we're going to talk about taxes and how to improve the ways you do business. Now, our first guest is Angelica Rodriguez. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
And Ricardo Fernandez. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm not a guest, I'm a special guest host.
And our stage manager that is our co-host today is Mr. Javier Perez.
Welcome. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
So let's talk about some current events. Now, you all know the biggest issue right now is the Pope. Around the world, people are talking about who's going to be the new Pope. Have you all had any feedback on that from your churches?
Yes, actually, at St. Cecilia, we've been praying a lot to get a new pope that understands and that is going to take us to the next age of Catholicism.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where this pope comes from.
Definitely.
Because as you all know, we have a large population of Catholics on this side of the world. So we'll see if it's from this side of the planet, if you will.
Well, they're talking about going back to an Italian.
An Italian, huh?
Yeah, so who knows? I mean, there are more Italian cardinals than any other, so they seem to have the, the inside lane to that race. So
you being a media person on the internet,
Right.
what have you heard?
I mean, I don't really know what's going to happen next or who's going to be taking the place. I don't really have any input on who could it be or anything.
Okay.
Oh, let's get into this now. She's anti-religion. No, I'm just joking with you.
That's a
I
totally
respect
different subject
everybody's,
She
religion.
doesn't practice
I just
religion.
don't go to a specific church.
We'll be here
We could
all
have
day.
another
We'll
show
have a
on
field
that.
day with that one.
We sure could.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the next subject matter. Today, the new senator from here in Houston, Senator Sylvia Garcia, was sworn in at the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been a lot of bickering in the Hispanic community because of the race. Now, hopefully, this leads to healing. As you all know, State Representative Carol Alvarado was going against Sylvia Garcia. And Sylvia Garcia is a senator. Carol Alvarado still remains a state representative. So they're going to have to work together. And their different camps are going to have to work together as well.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see. Hopefully they can bury the hatchet.
Bury the hatchet, that's correct.
And bury it not in each other's backs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Hopefully they can work together. But I tell you, Ben, we have to do something about these races. I mean, my gosh, I mean these people are really going at each other. And you've been part of some, with Ben Reyes, and I know Florencio Reyes in the '80s. Some drag out, down and dirty political campaigns.
You bring up a good point, because a lot of times these races go on and they hold grudges for 10, 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
And our community does not heal.
Exactly.
And as a result, our community is hurt.
Yeah.
Because of the bickering. And you, as a new person on the political scene, what do you see in your arena?
What do you mean?
As far as the politics, do you hear about the bickering amongst college students?
Not really. I mean, the reason why it's just because not a lot of college students talk about politics, or there isn't a lot of going on about it. So, I mean, not in the college community, no.
Okay. Ricardo?
Well, I hear about it. I mean, just because I'm so involved in the community, and we just need to work together, really, and stop all these separation between each of the communities. And I think that's the way to go, to work to establish a synergy between all of us, so that we can look toward that goal
Well, we don't have a leader that can bring us together. We have Adrian Garcia, and now we have the new senator.
Right.
Okay, but can those two people bring the community together? That remains to be seen. And I guess we'll find out in the next couple of years.
I remember speaking with Florencio Reyes, who had some classic battles with Ben Reyes. in the late 80s and 90s. I know for the congressional state representative seats, all this and that, you know, when all that was going on. And Ben, you were part of that, because I remember you were part of Ben Reyes's campaign or his staff. And one of the things that really stuck to me when I spoke to Frumencio was that he said, you know what? He says, we need to move forward as a people, and we need to stop realizing, we need to realize that our opponent is just our opponent. Our opponent is not our enemy, and we do not need to keep cutting each other up in these campaigns. And that really surprised me, because he got down as much as anybody did, you know, in his political. But it's really a great thing to see him say something like that. That, you know, there can be a different way. You know, why can't we stick to the issues? You know, why can't we just say, you know what, this is what I believe. You know, my opponent is a fine person, and you know, I just think I would be a better candidate. You know, and will that ever happen? You know,
I think that's like an imaginary world. Even look at the presidential race, how dirty it got. So at this level, we still have some dirty politics, and I think that's going to continue. I don't see it going away.
Well, until somebody takes that stand, and maybe it's going to have to take somebody that work from the bottom up.
Well, maybe.
You know?
Yeah, it's like they concentrate so much on each other and what one person's saying and what the other person's saying, when they can just, you know, put that aside and work on what they're going to do for the community, or, you know, for the presidents, for everyone.
Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Yesterday was Go Tejano Day, and they broke another record. 75,000 people showed up to the rodeo. That's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Now, as you know better than I do, that we have always wanted more days at the rodeo to represent the Latino community. And shouldn't this be like a precedent of why we shouldn't have another day?
I mean, that's been the argument. That's been the argument for years, you know. And I tell you, it really. I tell you, that's what really the most thing that sticks in my craw about the. You know, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, how they just kind of, you know, and I hate to say it, but I think they patronize the Go Tejano committee. You know, I think, you know, they just try to, you know, just keep us from getting too upset. And I tell you, man, I don't think we would get the respect we're due from the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. I think these guys are just, you know, they want our money, they want us to help, but they don't want our input. And that's really what sticks in my craw.
I agree. You know, there should be maybe another day or so, but I mean, it's not like they would have to, you know. I mean, they choose to put a Tejano Day there, but maybe they don't have to do it, you know.
Yeah.
They choose to do it.
I think that we should have maybe another 2 days added, you know, and have, because Tejano really isn't norteño or, you know, banda like they have now, you know. Maybe have 2 or 3 specific days for that. Have a weekend of, you know, nothing but Tejano, or, you know, Mexican, you know,
Man, that'd
area.
be great. I think
That'd
a
be
Go
great,
Tejano
but,
weekend instead
I mean,
of a Go Tejano
we
Day.
definitely have to go to the, you know, to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo and present the ideas. You know, I mean, we've broken records and records every Go
year,
Tejano every year, and, you know, what's there to show? One day. Yeah, sure, they give us a lot of, you know, scholarships, but hey, give us 1 day, an extra day, just a whole weekend, and maybe we can show them what we're made of.
For the hottest ticket, believe it or not, at the rodeo is Pitbull.
Oh, I can believe that.
Yeah.
Even my wife wants Pitbull tickets. I thought that was kind of strange, a strange request from her, but she said, if you find any tickets, let me know. Let's talk about another issue that has been very, very much discussed these past couple of weeks, is immigration. Now, the Republicans and the Democrats are finally coming together to resolve some of the issues that they have regarding immigration. This weekend, Congressman Luis Gutierrez was brought in by Congressman Al Green, and they had a big forum in the Bayou City Civic Center, and I tell you what, it was a packed house, and standing room only.
I tell you, that gentleman is one heck of a speaker.
Well, he is actually the most popular congressman as it relates to immigration in the United States. He has requests from all over the country, even the world, to talk about immigration reform. Okay, and so we were honored to have him in our presence this weekend. And Al Green, Congressman Al Green, did a great job also, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah, they did.
And so I look forward to hearing what the compromises will be. And as you know, anything brought to the table is probably going to get chopped up in a couple pieces. So we're not going to get everything that we want. But at least it's a step in the right direction, and I'm very happy to hear that.
I tell you, I would love to see Congressman Gutierrez move to Texas.
Congress,
We'll run him as governor or something, or as senator or something like that. You know, he's a great personality.
Yeah.
And a hardworking congressman, man. I tell you.
And I would agree. So he's actually an icon, a living icon already in the immigrant community. When people see him and he walks into a hotel, they literally stand up and give him a standing ovation.
Wow.
Yeah, because he is the champion for immigrant rights nationwide. So what an honor to have him. Let's go on to the next. Now, spring break is here, and I know that everybody here has felt it one way or another. I know when I drove this morning, I didn't see any cars on the freeway. So
I tell you.
and I'm sure Galveston is packed right now. I'm sure they could care less about this show right now. They're having their own fun over there.
Yeah.
So do you all have any kids in spring break right now?
I have 3 of them at home on spring break. So
Okay.
they're just sleeping late and playing video games.
Oh, so they do what you do.
Yeah, right. I don't like video games. I like staying home, but I don't like video games.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some kids, and they're enjoying the time off and sleeping in. And
Yeah.
I know you don't have any kids yet.
No, I don't.
Okay, good.
But I am, sleeping in and
You're on spring break too.
Yes, I am.
That's nice. I remember those days.
Oh man, that's the best feeling in the world. That Friday after you get off school and knowing you're gonna be on spring break next week.
I
It's the
have to
best
work.
feeling in the world, man.
I have to work.
Yeah, now back, but now enjoy it while you can.
So now that you're on spring break, now what is it that you're going to do with your online newspaper?
Well, we're going to try to get in more assignments given out and getting them more, getting them turned in and making sure that we're really current, making sure we're getting all our people to read our stories as well, putting a lot more time into it, because sometimes during the week, we get really busy with personal stuff or work, and right now, there's no excuse besides work,
So your newspaper is called The Venture Online.
Right.
Where did that name come from?
I joined the group EGMN, and the group was already, the name was already, settled. So
And so you
I didn't have any
focus.
input into
You
it.
focus on what?
we do entertainment, sports. We have politics, just regular hard news. We have just different types of writing, like what would it be? Opinion, and just
Opinion pieces about
Right.
anything?
Yes, about anything.
Okay.
And
so
what does EGNM stand for?
EGMN.
MN?
It stands for El Gato Media Network.
And that's from University of Houston, right? Out of
It's
University.
not with the University of Houston, but we do have a lot of students from the University
Okay.
of Houston. But it could be from anyone. It could be someone from, Houston Community College, San Jacinto College. If they want to join and they want to write, then that's what we want.
Oh, great.
All right. So we're going to take a little break in just a minute. We're going to come back and talk about taxes and what's the best solution for you as a nonprofit, as a business. I just want to say one more thing about you. I congratulate you for being so young and so active in the community.
Thank you.
This young lady is more mature than I was in her age, and she understands a lot of the issues, especially the college perspective. So congratulations for
Thank
all
you
that
very
you
much.
do. So we'll be back in 2 seconds. Welcome back to Latino Talk TV. We are going to talk about taxes now. And we have our expert, Mr. Ricardo Fernandez. Again, thank you for joining us today.
Welcome.
So, what do we need to know about taxes?
Everything.
Everything.
Get an accountant with a shiny suit.
That's right. You have to talk to someone that knows taxes. You know. Position. They're lawyers, but a very respected lawyer. And nobody can do anything without a public notary. So you come to the U.S. and a public notary is just a witness who signs a document. Yeah, I saw that. And that's it. Now, you know, in Mexico, there's a saying that someone that does a million things is not an expert on one thing. So a public notary is going to, you know, witness any documentation that you have. They also have signs for insurance, vehicle, registration
I've seen it
stickers,
all.
anything.
I've seen it all. I've seen taquerias with
Title transfers, exactly. So how are you, you know, I always suggest people to go with a CPA or a tax preparer that has been doing this for a while, you know,
Okay.
and then that's what don't go to a public notary
Okay.
because they do it all.
So let's talk about nonprofits.
Okay.
Now, obviously, there's a lot of do's and don'ts as it relates to nonprofits versus business.
Definitely.
Yeah, and what are some of those do's and don'ts?
Well, do have somebody that does the daily accounting. Have someone there. You know, that's for everything.
Yeah,
that's for a nonprofit and a business.
But you're talking about big nonprofits. I'm talking about the little bitty nonprofits.
The little bitty nonprofits that just started, you know, don't keep everything in a shoebox. You know, that's a no-no. If you don't have money to,
you haven't seen underneath his mattress.
that's where he keeps everything,
He
right?
keeps all his receipts.
I have some big, it's a boot box actually. It's a little bigger than a shoebox.
I would suggest, you know, having either an Excel document. You know, like we have several Excels that, you know, that we give to our, you know, clients to have everything there, you know, and it's lined by, you know, months and certain expenses, you know.
So that's a good way to keep it. Just do
Right.
a monthly journal.
Yeah, monthly journal.
Yeah.
And everything, you know, we nonprofits, and we also do it for businesses. You know, this is just Excel, very basic,
Yeah.
very inexpensive, you know, and everything's there. Of course, keep your, you know, the backup copies.
Is there a mistake that's very common?
A mistake that's very common is that nonprofits won't do anything until year 3, you know, and they won't file their taxes. So that's a mistake, you know, or they don't have someone there to guide them, you know, because they have to file. A nonprofit is only a nonprofit until they file their Form 1024, and it's accepted by the IRS. You know, you can be a nonprofit entity here in Texas, but you still have to pay taxes, you know, and that's a pretty common mistake that they do.
Yeah. And so do you find that a lot of people just kind of wing it?
They wing it.
They wing it, and then 2 years later, they're trying to resolve the issues.
Exactly. 2 years later, they're trying to resolve the issues, and you know, I always give talks that if you're going to start any business, because a nonprofit is a business, it's just it's a tax code that you still have to run it as a business. You know, you still have to make money. You know, there's a misconception where a nonprofit is a nonprofit, so it shouldn't have any income. No, it should. You know. Because there's always, you know, little things that come up that, hey, you need money for to allocate to these, things that come up. And, you have to write everything down, and you have to do things the way that you're supposed to. Get advice from someone that does, tax planning and tax, advice. That's generally the way to go.
Let's talk about some of those scams that are out there, because you hear about people that do your taxes and their check actually goes to somebody else. And so they get very little of what they're supposed to get.
Right.
So what are the do's and don'ts as far as something like that? What do you watch out for?
You have to watch out for a lot of, Social Security numbers that are not correct. I have a case right now that I'm working with a client of mine that her daughters and sons, they've been used on somebody else's return. So and this has been going on for 10 years or a little bit over 10 years. And it's just been a hassle. She can't file on time because that other person beats them to the punch. And once somebody files, well, there's always, issues for you filing. You have to wait until everything gets sorted out, and there's a lot of fraud. Fraud in the U.S. for tax returns has increased tremendously in the past 3 years. It's doubled, and now I think it's at 750,000 returns from 200 in 2010, I believe. So it's a really
quadruple.
Yeah, it's a really high number.
Sounds like people are getting desperate.
They are.
At the end of the day, because for small businesses here in Texas, they have to pay multiple taxes. They got to pay the franchise tax
Right.
here in the state of Texas, as well as the Fed. Now, I will tell you that because of the strain of the economy, people are looking for ways that they don't have to pay so much taxes, and of course, that leads to fraud.
That does lead to fraud. I mean, there's cases where they'll pay for someone to, reduce their income by hiring 1099 workers, quote unquote, that they weren't even part of the business, and they pay someone, hey, I'll give you $5,000 if you could take this income. They'll write, or they'll just start, writing 1099s to people that don't even exist, and that's how they commit fraud. They're able to show it on their 1096s, which is a summary of all their 1099s, and they decrease their income and show less income, and that's fraud right there.
So we know of many nonprofits that have lost their nonprofit status.
Right.
Okay. Now, whether it be mismanagement of funds or IRS paperwork, whatever the case may be, what do you see the most of?
It's just the most things is a mismanagement of IRS notices. If you don't, and not mismanagement of funds per se, but you get notices and then you just stockpile them. I'll do it later. And the nonprofit's organization, the board has to be very active, proactive on filing those taxes, because otherwise, if a nonprofit may lose their tax
Exempt status.
after not filing for 3 consecutive years. So let's say in 06 you didn't file, 07 you didn't file, but in 08 you did, then you're good. But you still have to file the other 2. Mm-hmm. Then you continue for 09 you didn't, 10 you didn't, and 11 you didn't. That's when you get a notice, hey, you just lost your status. So.
And that's actually, I know there's a lot of work involved in trying to regain that nonprofit status.
There is. There's a lot of work.
You got attorneys and the whole bit.
Everything. You have to. There's steps for reinstatement. I mean, it's a pretty.
Not to mention the fines.
The fines are up there.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Because you'll spend more money on fines than the actual amount you owe.
It's just, like I said earlier, I do give talks, on businesses that come in with, a lot of errors or, it'll cost you more to not get an accountant when you started than when you do, when you start, you get an accountant. It'll cost you 3 times as more.
Well, we have a phone number on the bottom of the screen. It's 281-846-5079. This is a live television show. So if you want to ask any questions of Ricardo or of any of us, feel free to do so. And we encourage you to do so. Now, let's talk a little bit about the business tax.
All right.
Okay. Now, you always hear about the loopholes that big corporations have, so they don't have to pay taxes like what they normally do because of these loopholes. Now, what are some of those loopholes for the small business person?
Well, they're the same ones, They just have to, there's a lot. There's energy credits that they can have. There's if you have certain employees, you can have some credits there as well. If you impact a certain amount of, if you impact the employment in certain areas, you can have some credits there as well.
So, it's my understanding if you create jobs,
right,
then there is a tax incentive.
There's a tax incentive
Okay.
because let's say you're a $500,000 small business. The more people you employ, a person that you employ will cost the company generally between 10 and 13% of their salary. So let's say you hire 10 employees at $50,000, that's usually about another $50,000, less that you can account.
So basically, if you have X number of employees, you get a certain percentage back, or you don't have to pay that percentage
Right,
taxes.
you don't have to pay that percentage in taxes, exactly.
Okay,
So you can deduct it from your net income.
okay.
No.
So most of these businesses that you do business for, would you say they're mom and pop shops?
They're everything, really.
Oh, okay.
I've got, 10 to $20 million companies and startups.
Okay.
And the startups are they're my favorite because, I bring a team of professionals and surround them, and we establish a core of, a circle of trust, pretty much, and that advise the clients.
We have a caller. I don't see any blinking lights though. I guess we'll figure it out, Javier.
Let's see who we got.
Here we go. Bill, are you on the line?
Yes.
Bill, how can we help you?
I've got a question about the advertisements I hear about if you owe more than $10,000 in taxes, that you can have these dramatically decreased in the amount that you owe. How valid are those situations?
It depends on what type of tax you owe. What generally what happens is they'll file an 8821 or a power of attorney, which is 2848, for you, and they'll ask what the taxes were or what the issues are on your account. And from there, if you didn't file taxes or you filed taxes late, those penalties can be removed. However, the interest won't be. The interest is not abated. So they are generally, true, and you can have, the penalties abated or waived, but it's only a one time, and it just happens. It's just on a case by case basis, really.
Well, we have a new guest that just arrived. He's actually my co-host, and he was stuck in traffic. This is live TV, so this is reality. This is what happens to some of us. We get stuck in traffic. But he's here, and so we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back.
Did we answer your?
Latino Talk TV. And we have our host here today, Mr. Jose Jimenez. How was the traffic out there?
It was terrible. It was terrible.
Where were you at?
I was in the Woodlands, and it took me what, 2 hours? Left 4 o'clock from the Woodlands to get here at 6:30.
Was there a wreck?
Yeah, right on 45 and the Beltway. A couple of wrecks right there, and then I had cut across on Hardy Toll Road. There was a wreck right there, and finally got down on Hardy, and there was a wreck on 610 and 59. So
You could have called in.
I could have called in, right? I was speeding the whole way. No, I wasn't. Just kidding.
All right, so we're talking about taxes, and Jose is a business owner. He owns an insurance company, and I'm a business owner. I own a little construction company. One of the issues that I see all the time is that we have what we call temporary employees, and you know they're maybe on a particular job for 6 months, 9 months, et cetera, and then they go somewhere else and they find another temporary job. What happens a lot of times is that we're asked for paperwork 3 or 4 years after the fact because they didn't do their taxes properly, and so they're coming back to find out information from us. So I'm assuming you see that a lot, especially in the communities that we work in,
Right.
where some people are not willing to do their paperwork until they're forced to do it.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, hey, you need to pay taxes, man. You know, like everybody. You know, that generally happens when, you know, the temporary, you know, people are, you know, they work for a company for 3 months or just for that project, and then move on to somebody, you know, somewhere else, or you know, the address has changed, and they fail to, you know, call their previous employers and say, hey, my address changed, so that your W-2 or the 1099 can be correctly delivered. So that's why, you know, those are the cases that happen, you know, and an accountant, if you have an accountant on contract, they should be able to, you know, go through the previous year's records and, you know, provide those to you.
So I just want you to know you're not the only one that's busy during
no.
the tax season, because we're busy as well. I'm sure you're busy as well.
Definitely.
Now,
We're
you had
trying
a
to
question
save
for Mr. Ricardo.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. Actually, did you already cover what age someone should start doing their taxes?
As soon as they hit, you can do one at 16.
Okay.
If you're working and you get taxes taken out, yeah, you can do it.
I also have a question for you. What do you think about when they tell you, I mean, I started working when I was 16, right? But I wasn't making a lot because it was just, you know, a regular job. And they say, you don't have to because you didn't make a certain amount or whatever. And so I eventually did it, 2 years later, and I got like $100 or something. But what do you say, you know, to that? Like, what do you think, you know,
I mean,
can we? Or
you can
is
if-
there something illegal about
there's
it,
nothing
not doing
illegal
it?
about it. There's
About
nothing.
not doing it. I
No,
mean.
there's nothing
okay.
illegal about not doing it or doing it. You know.
What's the break even?
What's
the dollar amount?
If you're due a refund, you don't have to claim it. But if she owed money, she would
Right.
have
If,
to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
have to
if she
file.
owed money, then you'd have to file. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly. But you know, the break-even point is, it's going to be, you know, like you said, $100. How much did you pay for your taxes? You know, there's free, you know, TurboTax does free e-filing but you have to qualify for it. Don't know what the requirements are, you know, to do the e-filing for free. You know, I think you have to make 12,000 or 10,000
Okay, I think
a
they had
year,
told me 10.
something
and when
like
I got
that.
when I did this previous year, I put those in, so they were free.
Right.
So I didn't have to pay them to do them for
Right.
me. But, okay, I just wondering on that.
Right, and there's other, you know, organizations out there that do taxes for free. VitaTax from
Yeah.
Neighborhood Centers Inc. You know,
I
have
was
some,
just about to ask you about that
Yeah.
because they do a big program.
They do.
Every tax season. They start in January, or actually the end of January when the 1099 W-2s come in. I'm even told, I know that's a program that Mr. Felix Fraga is helping with Neighborhood Centers. He even told me they'll go back and help you fix problems with your taxes from previous years. What's been your experience with that, Rick?
I think it's a great
Really?
program because you know, a lot of, and you have to qualify, like I said, you know, because, you know, a lot of people go, oh, it's a free tax service. So they go and they're, you know, they're businessmen that have, you know, thousands of dollars of income, and they're like, well, I can't, you know.
They keep kicking Ben out.
Yeah,
of there. Ben, get out of here.
That's all I was looking for.
A fake beard, fake mustache.
I only hired 2 people over and over and over again.
So it's a great program. If you qualify it, I'd say go for it, you know. And they're all over, you know, the city of Houston, you know. And
All neighborhood centers, I believe.
So is it good to say you better be safe than sorry? If you made money, might as well file?
might as well file. You know, it's on record, you know.
So all those chiclets that you sold on the corner,
Oh my
all the little gum.
Chiclets!
You gotta report it.
Is that on Harrisburg or Jensen? Was it Jensen?
It was
Oh,
Jensen.
no.
North side.
So if you make any type of money, just go ahead and file.
Go ahead and file. Yeah.
Did you already talk about the tax ID numbers?
No, not yet.
Okay, so because right now let's talk about the whole immigration reform. We have a few minutes left, but the immigration reform, one of the very first things they're going to ask you for is proof of being here and proof of being a responsible person.
Right. Proof of being a non-citizen citizen.
Okay.
And what does that mean? You know, it's a word that I invented, I guess. But it's proof that you have been here working or paying your taxes. You know, you can make money, you know, cash or whatever, but you have to report that. It's income, you know. And how do you report that? Well, in 1996, the IRS, they added a number called the I-10, the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. That number is used for individuals to, you know, that are here that may be contract workers, you know.
So they can't legally work as an employee,
can't, right.
but they can own businesses.
Right.
There's a big deal. So you cannot pay taxes as an employee, but you can own 20 businesses.
Right. You can have a taco truck, or you can have, you know, a carpenter, or
20 restaurants.
or 20 restaurants. Exactly. You know.
Or an oil company.
Right. Right. And it's all based on, you know, how much investment you're doing here in the U.S. You know, there's a lot of rhetoric, you know, that what's the word? I don't want to be wrong here.
You can say what the media calls them illegal immigrants.
Yeah, illegal immigrants that don't pay taxes. Well, you know, I've got undocumented workers that don't pay taxes. Well, they do. They pay sales taxes. Everybody does when they buy groceries or what have you. But they also, you know, some have an I-10 number. You know, and that I-10 number is solely used for reporting your taxes. You know, and here's the thing here's the big difference between a social and an I-10 number. The I-10 number does not change your immigration status. You are not allowed to work as an employee, but you're able to receive, you know, income via that I-10 number, and then you're not taxed on it.
For contracted services.
For contracted services, exactly. So you're a 1099 worker. So what this means is that they have to set aside money, because as a 1099, you know, contractor, that's your business now. So you're going to pay business taxes, what your employer would if you're an employee, and you're going to pay the employee's taxes, which the employee would pay. So what the government will do, what the IRS will do, is there's a self-employment tax that you're going to pay on that. So what I generally say is, if you're a 1099, you know, contractor, whether you're a undocumented worker or a regular worker that chooses to have their own business or chooses to be a contractor, you know, save generally 25% of your income, because you're gonna, you know, $1,000, save $250 and pay in. That way it doesn't, kick you in the behind later on. Another really important fact is the I-10s, they don't qualify for Social Security. So Social Security or Medicare taxes. I mean, they don't qualify for the benefit of Social Security or Medicare, but they contribute. So they're getting taxed, they're contributing to, Social Security and Medicare taxes, but they don't receive any other benefit. So
In the current status.
In the current status, exactly. And they do pay for, self-employment taxes.
That's funny he mentions that because Congressman Luis Gutierrez was talking about that this weekend, that there's a lot of immigrants that do pay taxes, even though they're not so legal here.
Right.
But they do pay taxes via that very same form you just mentioned.
Sure.
Now, you also mentioned that there's going to be, I guess, an opportunity for these folks to repay some of the taxes that they owe from back in the day in order to become citizens. So they're going to have, I don't know what the laws are going to be when they come with the immigration reform bill, but it'll be interesting to see how far back they have to go to pay their taxes.
I'm interested to see what the
Yeah.
requirement's going to be, because I think during the last amnesty they had to show.
3 or 5
Well,
years.
let me take this back. We're not talking about an amnesty now.
No.
During the amnesty of '86, I believe, they had to show 3 to 5 years of actual reported income and show proof of being here and some kind of proof of being here. And I'm assuming, what they would say about assume and what it does, but I really truly believe that when this happens, or there's an opportunity to buy into the system, they're going to require 3 or 4 or 5 years of tax returns or tax ID information, or who have you been, what name have you worked under,
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of work for you.
I tell you.
No, there
Someone's
is
gonna
right
have to
now,
take that.
there is.
Take that bull
We
by
have
the
to
horns.
educate the community. That's where we need
A
to.
lot of work for notary publics too.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
That's the only
Unfortunately.
downfall, because I still hear in my customer base, I still hear a lot of people say, well, I've been posting a loss every year in my business because that's what my accountant told me to do. Have you talked about that myth of the community?
The myth of,
In the Latino community, or I think in any community, it's if you run a business, post a loss, so you don't have to pay more taxes. Is that a true statement or not?
that is a true statement that we hear a lot about it.
But it's
Now,
not a true.
It's not a true, that's not how you're supposed to do things. Run a business successfully, pay your taxes. Everybody needs to pay their taxes. And, if you run a business, hey, don't post it. Why? Because you're going to do 2 or 3 things. If you want to grow your business and you take your financial statements and your taxes to the bank, they're not going to even look at you. Why? Because you're posting a loss. What does that tell you? What does that tell to the people? That you can't run a business successfully because you've been posting losses. So generally, talk to your accountant, and if they give you, I don't give that, that myth. Hey, we need to post losses so that I can be, in good terms with my clients. No, hey, we're gonna show profits. That way we can, grow your business. And that's and show people, hey, I'm actually running a successful business.
All right, you ready to start your business now?
Yes, I am. I'm prepared. And I was wondering, people who do use that form, which is, you said the 1099, was it? Okay, is it better for them once it comes to the point to where they're going to try to legalize or change their immigration status?
Exactly. It might be helpful, because they've been reporting on that with that number. That number identifies that person. When they do the 1040, they show that, hey, I've been a 1099 worker or 1099 contractor. I've been reporting my taxes for this amount of, and there's people that have been doing it since that number became available, and they've been a good citizen, non-citizen. They don't have any prior, convictions or anything like that. They pay everything that they have. They may even own homes, and those homes were probably bought cash, maybe. Who knows? It all depends on each person's situation.
So a person that doesn't have the right to work and doesn't have a Social Security number can own a business.
They can.
And that person that isn't allowed to be an employee but can be an employer.
They can be an employer.
So
That doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't make sense. It
But
doesn't.
it's real. And
It's real, yeah.
The main media, the normal media, like chastises people for being undocumented workers.
Right.
But they're not celebrating those that actually start their own businesses and get things
Right.
going.
Right.
So they pay into the system, but don't qualify for Medicare or Social Security.
Right.
Ain't that-
And not
imagine
only
that.
that.
Do you find a lot of that, Rick?
Yeah, I found
Really?
a lot of that. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
So they own
You know,
good, successful businesses.
They own good, successful businesses, restaurants and, little taco trucks or a little construction company,
You know, that's real interesting, Rick. You being in the tax profession, when you hear things like what's said that the undocumented don't contribute, to the U.S. economy, they're a drain. You're on the front line. You're seeing what does that say to you, and how do you feel about that?
Well, it says to me that people just hear the media and don't even do research, by themselves, or that we need to educate the communities, I mean, because all they hear is what the media blasts, media blasts from both left and right, but they're just following whatever they see, whatever they
hear. So
hear.
your contention is these people are really contributing to the American economy.
Now, the ones that contribute, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that don't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that everyone does.
But that's the same case for residents or
Right,
citizens
exactly,
or
exactly.
U.S. born, not
Yeah,
U.S. born.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's plenty of U.S. born American citizens that don't do anything
they
but
don't do- no.
get that paper signed because they need 5 interviews for the week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know how the unemployment system works.
Yeah.
There are people, unfortunately, that do abuse the system.
They do. There's
Let's-
and in all communities.
Let's
yeah.
talk about the unemployment. Okay, so let's say I'm unemployed for 12 months out of the year, and I'm still filing the taxes. And chances are I'm not going to have to pay any taxes, right?
Well, actually, if there's a repayment clause for unemployment. So let's say you were on unemployment for 12 consecutive months. Once you do find a job, you can actually repay your whatever you took. Generally it's about a fourth of your income, I think. So let's say you were doing $60,000 a year, and that a fourth is 20,000. No, 15,000. Yeah, 15,000. So you had to you have the ability to pay that back. If you pay it back, you don't get taxed on it. But if you don't pay it back, there's a line item on the 1040 for unemployment, and you should pay taxes on it.
So you're telling me that even though I didn't make any income per se, I still have to pay taxes at the end of the year?
Well, you made unemployment income.
Right.
So all those years you were on unemployment, you got to pay it back.
Yeah, you got to pay it back.
And is that everyone, or is that
That's
just some?
no, that's everyone that's on unemployment.
Okay.
Yeah, should be liable for, for everyone should, because what you're doing is you're taking money when you were unemployed. Unemployment should only be, hey, I got to get back on my feet.
Yeah.
That's what it's based for. That's what it was
Just be a
established.
temporary thing
Just a
to get
temporary
you on your
thing.
It's
feet,
not meant
and
to
then
be
they have-
9 months.
It's not meant to be, hey.
I got so much time.
Exactly.
I can no.
And
or-
and that's what it needs to be. In my opinion, it should be. Hey, it's a temporary thing. I got to get back on my feet. And you get back on your feet and you pay that money back.
So what about the folks that get food stamps and all that other stuff? Does that count as income also?
Food stamps, I don't think so.
No.
No.
Okay.
No, that you don't pay taxes on it.
Okay.
Everyone pays taxes on it. Everyone pays taxes on it, but the people that receive don't. They don't get a 1099. That should be 1099 FS food stamp or 1099 LS, Lone Star or something,
It's
That
income.
should be, yeah, it's income. It should be. It should be. Yeah.
Tax them again.
What's the best piece of advice you can give to maybe a new taxpayer or someone just taking off their business? What's the best piece of advice you can give them, Rick?
Those are two different. So a taxpayer, an individual, have all your documents ready, and take them to, a professional. Take them to a professional, sit down with them. If you're just a number, like let's say they have a line out, what are they going to do? You're just a number, and they're just, they take your information, you sit there 15, 20 minutes, and they're done without explaining anything to you. That's generally not good. You know, you sit down with a client and, you know, hear their story. Give them about a 1 hour. I always give them an hour. Hear everything, you know, and then once I prepare it, I sit down again and this is line, this is why this is here, this is why this is here, and this is why you owe, or this is why you get a refund. You know, that's what you know, generally want to do. That's for anybody that pays, that is gonna, you know, file their taxes. For a business, you know, like I said, we have a team that does not work for me, but I partner up with insurance agents, you know, that insurance is gonna, you know, well, Jose Luis knows, you know, those are the ones that are gonna cover you, you know, CYA, you know, that are cover you if any litigation comes your way.
So Jose is one of your insurance guys?
Jose's
I thought we had higher standards. I thought you said professionals.
Julie.
And the guy who builds like a house and with sticks, like a construction worker. How does
wrong
the
with
nail
sticks?
go? How does the nail go?
Well, I tell you, Rick, if I go down, I'm dragging you down with me, brother. I was saying, Mr. IRS man, it was Ricardo Fernandez. He's the guy you need to see. He's the one who told me do it like this.
Do it like this, yeah. And if they don't, you know, because I've seen a lot of people that, you know, come in with their, you know, tax returns and it says self-prepared, you know, but they paid someone, you know, that's usually
A sign.
a little sign that something should.
What do you say to people who ask you to maybe, you know, like, not cheat or whatever, but play with the numbers? Because I
say-
know of a lot of people who say, oh, you know, I'm going to this person and this person sent me here because they'll
Right,
help me
because
get
of
more
this,
money.
you know, yeah. I generally
Was that
say,
Javier?
You ratting me up, brother.
Sorry, I try not to say names.
Calm you out, man. I tell you.
I generally say, look,
taxes.
this is how, you know, this is by the book, you know. Now there's different strategies that you can use, you know, and you know I take them through there and you know and file their taxes like that. But everything has to be proven, you know. You know, I get a lot of, you know, some business women would try to, you know, deduct their shoes. You know, I'm sorry, but your Louis Vuitton shoes or purses, you know, are not uniforms. You know.
So Ben was trying to
should
write off the
be.
shoes.
Should be.
Ben,
Yeah, they're
the suit too.
yeah, exactly, and you know they're
It does look like a
suits, yeah.
construction outfit.
And he says he does construction.
yeah, right. So there's a lot of write-offs that are not write-offs. You know, that a lot of people, you know, will try to deem write-offs, and I tell them, nope, no suits, no purses, no shoes, dry cleaning.
But what if it is part of the uniform, having a suit?
A uniform, you know, a uniform can be a scrub, you know, for a medical assistant. That's a uniform. Or if they, you know, are at a warehouse and they have to wear a uniform, that's a uniform.
Okay.
This is not a uniform for me. I would like it to be. I'm not saying that, you know, hey.
By the way, you're blinding me with that.
I know the bling bling suit over here. So embroidered clothing though is suits. I mean uniforms. Like if I embroider clothing for my employees.
Right, if you embroider clothing and you charge them, yeah, they, you know, if you charge them for that, you know, the uniform,
And if I just give it to them, I
and if
still
they
wear it
go, they can give it. Who pays for it?
I pay
Yeah.
for it, embroider, and I give it to them.
That's a uniform.
So you can't go to the wise guy men's warehouse and say, "This is my uniform."
Embroider my website on the arm.
Yeah.
Do you own your own business?
No, I don't.
You're going to now, right?
I have a lot of, you know, knowledge now.
Well, we're going to have to wind down. We have a couple minutes left, but I did want to tell you all that we have a very big event coming in Magnolia. They're celebrating 100 years of existence.
Wow.
Right. And so they have a Tejano Association for Historical Preservation is putting on a parade. And it's going to be on March 23rd. It's a Saturday at 10 o'clock. Now, I know most of you know where Magnolia is, but in case you don't, it's off of a wayside, and you can say north of Navigation. That's pretty much good navigation area is all Magnolia. The park where they're going to be at is called Mexican Park. Are y'all familiar with Mexican Park?
No.
Nope.
No.
Mexican Park.
Mexican. It's right off of Avenue Inn.
Okay.
Yeah, just east of Wayside. So as you all know, they're going to have a lot of little leagues as well that are having parades. So I encourage you all as parents, getting your kids involved, engaged in the little leagues. Right now it's baseball. And so I'm sure many of you all have been involved with little leagues, so how important it is for us as parents to engage the kids at a young age. I know all the neighborhoods in Southeast are having parades, so you can be part of that. The other thing I will say is that I was very, very happy to hear that Mariachi Invitational that the Go Tejano Committee did for the rodeo went real well at the Arena Theater on Saturday. They had a packed house, and I believe there was 6 mariachi groups that performed, and then they picked a winner at the Go Tejano Day at Houston Rodeo at the Reliance Stadium. So hats off to the Go Tejano Committee for a great job that they have done. And so we are just about out of time. Any quick statements before we leave?
Talk to your tax professionals, and if you're a startup, they should have people that they can work for, that they work with to set up your company the right way.
And what's your website for more educational information?
www.hernandezfernandez.com. Hernandez with an H, Fernandez with an F, that's me, .com.
Well, thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it. And thank you for being late.
Thank you for having me again.
All right, well, this wraps up our show. Thank you for joining us on Latino Talk TV. We'll be back Monday night, 6 p.m. live TV every week. So join us next week. Thank you.